And who is the team that is going to just miss out on finals football? I do not mean to make them a meme like the West Tigers are finishing in ninth, but I think for the second year in a row, the Brisbane Broncos are going to be ninth. And it is a question on their forward pack, specifically their second rowers. And I need to see Kotoni Staggs. I need to see a couple of other young players come through and really take things by the scruff of the neck. The Brisbane Broncos were exceptional in stages in 2022. They're going to be in the top 8, maybe with about 4 weeks to go. But they themselves have a bastard of a draw. They have a difficult start, but they have a real prick to end the season. They take on pretty much the top 6 of 2022 in their run to the finals. And I don't know if they're going to be good enough to get enough points in the bank to get them into the top 8 for 2023. No bias. I just think the baby Broncos, they're young adults and they're still going to be susceptible to mistakes. Brisbane Broncos are going to finish in ninth for me, in my opinion. And my minor premiers for 2023, the Penrith Panthers. Are you joking? This club, are you freaking joking, bro? Penrith Panthers are going to be the minor premiers. They aren't going to take a backward step, bro. Maybe they might have one more loss in 2023, but that would equal to 3 losses for the entire year. Turn it up, please. And my grand final, I am not going past the Penrith Panthers. There's no way I am going to deny this club a spot in the grand final when, they've lost some experience and some talent, but they've got a seriously deep crop of youths coming through still. At least I was half right. Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome to the Wobble and Jaw Sports channel. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider liking the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. It's grand final week, baby, and this Sunday becomes 2 different things all at once. It becomes the most memorable day of rugby league for the entire year, but because of the amount of alcohol and potentially other things that everybody's going to be consuming throughout the entire friggin' day, it becomes one of the most hardest days to actually remember on the entire friggin' calendar. And what do we have to look forward to this Sunday? Well, there are 3 contests happening at Accor Stadium that all promise to be absolute rippers. Cannot wait for all 3 of those games. The pre-match entertainment is a Tina the Turner musical that's been shifted from the entertainment theatre or whatever into Accor Stadium. So, simply the best is going to be absolutely blaring throughout Accor Stadium throughout the majority of the day. But this is the first time since the NRLW has come in to fruition that all 3 games, a Queensland team versus a New South Wales team. It's pretty much State of Origin game number 4 this weekend, isn't it? So without further ado, allow me to give to you the best possible grand final day preview that I can muster. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get stuck into it. The 2023 Grand Final Day starts at 12:20 p.m. here in Queensland or 1:20 p.m. in New South Wales because the day of Grand Final Day is daylight savings time. Makes things difficult for you boys and girls down there in New South Wales. ontab.com.au. In the state championship game, we got the South Sydney Rabbitohs sitting at $1.20. The Brisbane Tigers are $4.50. That's pretty big on the Brisbane Tigers. The first state championship game was in 2014. This will be the 8th. And the New South Wales team has won 5 head-to-head. 4 of the 7 results. The winner has scored 40 plus points or more. On one of those occasions in 2016, the Dragons were able to score 50 points over the Burleigh Bears in 2016. South Sydney Rabbitohs finished the New South Wales Cup season in second place. The Brisbane Tigers finished in the Queensland Cup in third place. South Sydney are about a 3 converted try better team over the Brisbane Tigers. I nearly said Broncos. And the Brisbane Tigers defensively are just about a 100-point better outfit, but they can still score some points, the Brisbane Tigers. They were inside the top 3 for attacking stats. So while the Brisbane Tigers can score points, a lot of them, they were really good in the offloading department this year, were the Brisbane Tigers. It is going to be the attack of the South Sydney Rabbitohs versus the Brisbane Tigers defense this weekend. Going into the grand final for the Queensland Cup that happened 2 weeks ago, it was the Tigers versus the Bears. The Tigers held on, controversially so in some instances. They just did everything and anything they could to win that contest, illegally or legally. So they ended up winning that game, and they won when they only had 45% of possession. They completed at 84%, but it was the penalties that really nearly did them in. 12 penalties they gave away in that contest, and they also missed 40 tackles as well in that contest, did the Brisbane Tigers, but they were able to frustrate the Burleigh Bears and just defend like their lives depended on it. And it did, and it earned them their first Queensland Cup championship. So that's fantastic for the Brisbane Tigers. Meanwhile, South Sydney, they played the North Sydney Bears last weekend at CommBank Stadium, and they got the job done, but less impressively so. Whilst it was a thriller that went down to the final 2 minutes or so, South Sydney, they won that game with 50% of possession, but their completion rate was 68%. The North Sydney Bears, I don't know how they lost that game, to be honest with you. It was a little bit of a choke job by reading the stats, by the looks of things, man. They themselves, they missed 38 tackles and gave away 7 penalties. So luck was on their side that day. They haven't been the best attacking side or the best defensive side. They finished the year with plus 51 or thereabouts. And then the Brisbane Tigers themselves, they weren't the best as well, but they had one of the better defenses inside the top 8 when finals did come about. Let's get stuck into the team list now. So at fullback is Blake Taaffe. The wingers are Tom Carr and Tyrone Munro, the grand final scoring hero last weekend. The centres, Isaac Thompson and Jacob Gagai. Dion Teopa and Dean Hawkins, the halfback, who is also the captain. The forward pack is Shaq Mitchell, Brock Gray and Peter Mamazoulos in the hooker position. Matt French, Ethan O'Neill and Tallis Duncan are the back row, and the interchange reads Gardner, Rame, Skelton, and Yalin Gordon. There is only one change from the team, which sees Ben Lovett, a second rower, shift out of the side. I don't know if it's suspension or if it's a failed HIA or injury. I don't think it's a HIA, but unfortunately Ben Lovett, he played in the grand final last weekend. He is now out of the side this weekend for the state championship. So in comes Leonard Skelton. Going into the Brisbane Tigers now, at fullback is Taj Wood. The wingers are Lehman and George Jennings. The centres, Solomona Fa'atape and Kane Bradley. The halves pairing is Riley Jacks and Jonah Pezzett. The forward pack, Jordan Grant, Tristan Powell, and Cole Geyer with jersey number 14 on his back, there on NRL.com, is the hooker. The back row is Thomas Rafter, Lee Avaha Pulu, and Charlie Murray. And the interchange is Leslie, Chan, Myers, and Marion Seve. And 18th man for respective teams is Tristan Alvarado and Jack Natapu. Corey Thompson, old workhorse veteran Corey Thompson, did play for the Brisbane Tigers at stages throughout 2023. He was the fullback in their grand final victory, not Taj Wood. He's not playing in this contest, so Taj Wood comes in. This is one of the keys to the game for me because Taj Wood has not played any Queensland Cup action since mid-July, and it's not through injury. I just think Corey Thompson, he came in, showed a bit more of experience, a bit more class, I reckon. And that's just kept Taj Wood out of this Brisbane Tigers outfit. So no pressure on your Taj Wood, but he's coming in fairly rusty, I would imagine. Of course, maybe he's been playing some, below reserve grade footy over the past 2 or 3 months, but this is his first big game since middle of July, man. So Wood's going to be put under all sorts of pressure, you would imagine, by Dean Hawkins, this Sunday. And Hawkins has had a really bloody good year. As a matter of fact, the Brisbane Tigers, they've worked with three halves throughout the entire year, which is Jacks, Pezet, and Myers. Dean Hawkins has kicked over 2,000 more kicking meters than all three of those halves combined for the Brisbane Tigers. So Dean Hawkins, man, while he's had a couple of first grade appearances and they've sort of been a little bit wavy, in New South Wales Cup, he's absolutely killed it this season. So the kicking game from him on Taj Wood is going to be pretty interesting to watch. Also, the other change for the Brisbane Tigers is that Tristan Hope, he was in the Queensland Cup Grand Final, and he kind of lost the plot in the last 5 minutes. He was the main player that did anything and everything to make sure that they won. I don't think he gave too much of a bugger about playing in the state championship game. So he's suspended for this contest. So that does bring in Cole Geyer, who was the interchange player the week before. He'll play with jersey 14 on his back. And Jack Myers, who has played over 50 first grade games or thereabouts, Queensland Cup games. Myers comes in. He's been halfback for half the season, maybe a little bit more than that. So he was going to miss out, but he is going to be the backup hooker in this contest. And I think that's just reward for someone that's played that amount of Queensland Cup games and for someone that has played a majority of the season. So that's good for Myers, but unfortunate that they do lose their first choice hooker in Tristan Hope. Again, this is the attack of South Sydney versus the defense of the Brisbane Tigers, and for them to be $4.50 is massively enticing for me. Albeit, though, I get that the overall head-to-head record in the state championship leans heavily to the New South Wales team. Brisbane Tigers, they're going to have a week off coming into this game, or just about 2 weeks since their last contest. Travel down to Sydney for the first time ever. This is the first ever Rabbitohs Tigers game that's ever happened, or Brisbane Tigers versus South Sydney game that's ever happened. This is going to be a lot closer than the Tigers are at $4.50, let me tell you. I really want to tip the Brisbane Tigers in this game. I really do. Not because my Queensland bias is showing too much. I really like the stats that I've read and the things that I've seen from the Tigers all season. But I think home ground advantage is going to be way too massive. The fact that the fullback has not played a Queensland Cup game since mid-July is massively concerning as well, bro. So if Rabbitohs can actually complete a hell of a lot better than what they did last weekend, because I don't think the Tigers are going to give them as many opportunities. I think if the Rabbitohs can complete, I'm going to choose the South Sydney Rabbitohs to win this game 1-12. I don't think it's going to be a 40-18 scoreline like we've seen 3 or 4 times in this contest. I'm going to choose the South Sydney Rabbitohs to win this game 1-12. And are you all ready for an absolute thriller potentially? This could be an incredible game of footy in the NRLW Grand Final. The Newcastle Knights versus the Gold Coast Titans. On Sportsbet, the Knights are $1.50. The Gold Coast Titans are $2.60. This will be the 4th ever meeting between the two clubs. Newcastle have a 2-1 overall head-to-head record. The last time that these two sides met was in round number 4. It was anticipated. Both these sides were coming in with hot form. Both were 2-1. Unfortunately, the weather got a little bit better, got the better over the two clubs. It wasn't the highest quality game, unfortunately. But what I saw in that game, the Gold Coast, they've got enough spark about them to get the dub over the Newcastle Knights this Sunday. This could be Rugby League Guru. This could be absolutely anything this game. This could be an amazing contest. In that game, Newcastle completed at 75%. The Gold Coast Titans completed at 63%. The Titans were unlucky in the fact as well that they had 3 HIAs throughout that game too. And since that game, Emily Bass, she played in that contest. She has been out for a number of weeks with injury. Destiny Mino-Sinapati is going to be playing out there on the wing. And Laker Clark also played in that round number 4 contest. Danny Parisi is in. For the Newcastle Knights, in that game, Simone Kapane played. She's out. Caitlin Johnson did not play in that game back in round number 4, and she's playing in this grand final this Sunday. That's a huge difference. That's a huge factor for the Knights. Falila Kia is out of this game. She played in round 4. Tiana Davison is the interchange player to look out for. Also in that game, Sienna Lafipo, while she did play in that game in round 4, she was the halfback. Lauren Brown, who's just been killing it over the past 4 or 5 weeks, she was the hooker who started from the bench. But Lauren Brown, since she's shifted to halfback and since the Titans got flogged by the Roosters, they have gone on a run. They've defeated the Raiders, the Eels, sure, lesser teams than the Gold Coast Titans are, including the Tigers as well, I might add. They've also just gone down to both Canberra and Allianz Stadium in back-to-back weeks, and they've won rather convincingly, rather handsomely, might I add. So the Titans, they've been on the road for 2 weeks now, and they're coming in with massive amounts of momentum. I think it's about 4 on the trot that they've won. Meanwhile, the Knights, they've only lost 1 game all season to the North Queensland Cowboys back in round number 2, and since round 2, they've not really looked back. But the Newcastle Knights, over the past 2 weeks defensively and just mentally from the looks of things, they switch off. It took them 50 minutes to get into that game of footy in the final regular round against the West Tigers. And the West Tigers have only won 2 games this season. So the Knights nearly did themselves in the final round of the season. And then last weekend, they looked to have things wrapped up, but they allowed the Broncos back into that game big time in that second half. So the Knights, they need to produce a full 80 minutes. And that's one of the reasons why I think the Titans are in this game so much, is because they've been playing the full 70 minutes, I should say. The Titans have been playing 100% with intensity for the past 2 to 3 weeks or so, whereas the Knights, they're just coming in and out of games a little bit. I'm so looking forward to this game, so I'll just quickly get into the team list for both of these sides. The matchup of the day, Tamika Upton versus Ivania Polete in the grand final, the 2 best fullbacks in the NRLW this year. At one stage, Ivania Polete was leading the Dally M leaderboard. Tamika Upton is tipped to come rushing home and potentially pip her to win the Dally M. An amazing fullback battle. It's going to be so good. And the interesting thing too is that the Titans team, they have more kick return meters than the Newcastle Knights. And you think about how good Upton is at kick returning. Polite's got her covered by a couple of 100 meters just quietly. Let's finish off the Newcastle Knights. Gallagher, a brilliant rookie season, and Jasmine Strange, they are the wingers. And Gallagher is going to be lining up on Destiny Mino-Sinapati, 2 fabulous rookies in 2023. Karina Brown and Jasmine Strange are going to be going head-to-head this weekend. So I've really liked the way that Brown's gone about her business this year as well. I don't think she played in round number 1 or even round number 2, but she's made a huge difference with carries out of the Titans' own half, especially inside their own 20. She's been fabulous when it's come to that. Shanice Parker and Abigail Roach are the centres, and they are taking on Jamie Chapman and Niall Williams-Guthrie. And I think it's Williams-Guthrie versus Abigail Roach in the centres. So that's on the right edge. And then Chapman on the left edge is going to be taking on Shanice Parker. And to be honest with you, while Parker and Roach are fantastic in their own right, I do think Chapman and Williams-Guthrie have the edge in the centre battle this weekend. The halves pairing, Georgia Roach and Jessie Southwell versus Shante Kirioratu and Lauren Brown of the Gold Coast Titans. Wow, Southwell versus Brown. I wouldn't say Brown's been the best halfback of 2023. She's again been Mrs. Fix-It throughout the past 2 or so seasons now. wherever she's played. So Lauren Brown, while her form is hot, Jessie Southwell has been there at halfback from game number one, and she's a huge factor in this game, obviously. So Brown versus Southwell in the halves, fantastic stuff. And while I'm extremely excited for the full-back battle, this forward pack contest is going to be juicy as, ladies and gents. This is going to be so good. Taylor Predabon, Olivia Higgins, and Caitlin Johnston for the Newcastle Knights, the front rowers and hooker. They're taking on Shannon Marto, Brittany Brearley-Narty, and Jessica Elliston of the Gold Coast Titans. I'm so excited for this game. The back row is Layshawn Albert-Jones, Yasmin Clydesdale, and they are the 2 second rowers. And then Zara Canfield and Shaylee Bent are the second rowers. Now, I think Bent is actually lining up on Layshawn Albert-Jones, and Canfield is lining up on Clydesdale this weekend. So Clydesdale, she's been one of the best second rowers all season. Canfield, she's just a toiler, a battler. And Shaylee Bent, she's got her work cut out for her against Layshawn Albert-Jones, where Albert-Jones played the game of her life last weekend. It was a fantastic effort from Albert-Jones. She really stood out big time, and she could have just enough dimension in her game to help the Knights get over the line this weekend. And then the lock battle, or the captain's battle, the two females leading from the front this weekend for their respective clubs. Hannah Southwell at lock, the captain, taking on Georgia Hale, the captain of the Gold Coast Titans. Dude, this game keeps getting better and better the deeper that you look into it. The interchange, Nita Maynard, Tiana Davison, Kayla Rumanak, and Rima Butler, a super powerful interchange. And Maynard, with her speed and knowledge of the game, she makes some really clever, fast scoots out of dummy half. Very Emma Mantelman-like. So she could come on and be a real difference, enough to give them a really good platform this weekend in a couple of sets. For the Gold Coast Titans, their interchange is Sienna Lafippo, Stephanie Hancock, Riley Jorgensen, and Danny Parisi. Jorgensen, Parisi, under-19s State of Origin representatives for Queensland as well. Stephanie Hancock, at the young age of 40, still playing the game as good as she's ever done. And you saw the images of her crying at the conclusion of last weekend's preliminary final win. That's a real feel-good story. That's fantastic that Hancock can experience an NRLW grand final again. It's just awesome that she can experience a grand final, NRLW grand final. And then the 18th woman for both of these sides, Jacinta Carter, a Queensland under-19 State of Origin representative herself, and Talia Fuimaono, the star recruit for the Gold Coast Titans. And she lasted all but a half a footy in round number one, and she hasn't been seen since. So she'd be absolutely devastated. She'd be absolutely going off like a frog in a sock this Sunday, but I don't think she's going to force her way into the side. What a story that is, really, to be the star recruit and miss out on the entire season. You would have said, oh, maybe the Titans aren't a chance. But the Titans, they just stick in there. There was that 2-week phase where they got belted by the Roosters and they lost in a bad performance against the Newcastle Knights. But since then, they've just been so intense, so committed, and they really deserve to be there on grand final day. Whereas the Newcastle Knights, they've played at this high level for the entire season. And while there's been just a couple of dips in games, they absolutely deserve their spot in the 2023 NRLW grand final. This is an amazing game. I can't believe the Titans are $2.60 as well. By the way, this is the first time ever any Gold Coast side in NRL, NRLW, it is the first time the Gold Coast have represented on grand final day. What an amazing achievement that is. What an incredible achievement it could be by the end of 70 minutes come Sunday. Kickoff is at 2:55 p.m. This is a true flip of the coin. It's truly a flip of the coin. Um, the Titans, their tackle breaks, their post contact meters, that forward pack is elite. It is the best in the game, just about. And they're going to have their work cut out for them this weekend. The Knights, they are a much better attacking side than the Titans. It is the Knights' attack versus the Titans' defense, but there was some serious shape about the Titans last weekend. And I say it again, the Titans, if they complete and they play to the best of their abilities this Sunday, I thought that they were in that game, and I thought that if they played better in round number 4 earlier this season, they could have got the Newcastle Knights. I reckon they would have got the Newcastle Knights, but they shot their own foot. I'm going to go all in. Maybe now is where my Queensland bias is showing. I'm going to go the Gold Coast Titans to win this game 1-12 and bring home the first ever trophy for the Gold Coast. And then the main event kicking off at 6:30 p.m. here in Queensland, or 7:30 out there at Accor Stadium. The Penrith Panthers versus the Brisbane Broncos. It is first versus second on Sportsbet. The Panthers are $1.64. The Broncos are $2.27. This is the 61st meeting between the two sides in the NRL, and the Broncos have the overall head-to-head record at 35-24 with one draw. This is also the 4th ever finals match between the Panthers and the Broncos. They first met back in the 1990 final series. They last met in the 2017 final series. The overall head-to-head record in finals between the two is 2-1 in favour of the Penrith Panthers. I'm just trying to think, who refereed the last time that these two sides played back in Indigenous round? And who was the bunker? Did anything controversial? Did anything happen in that game? Well, at least that they worked together to get that decision corrected. Did anything else like that happen the last time the Panthers and Broncos played?
So, there's a push in the back there. Walsh has pushed Sorensen out. Is that going to be the problem? And hang on, he's taken out Peachy. That's a shame for the Broncos. Hang on.
Reece Walsh is contesting the ball.
Wow.
At this stage.
Wow.
It doesn't look right to me, Ash.
He doesn't have eyes for the ball the whole time.
Just having a look at Reece Walsh and whether he jumps early into...
I think the referee has intervened with the bunker.
He has.
Did you hear that?
Yep.
Adam G, looking at the big screen, says, I'm not satisfied with this decision.
Hey! Hey! Oh, at least they worked together to get the right decision. If anything like that happens this weekend between Klein and G, where they can't get on the same page, it will be worse than the 2019 grand final. And besides congratulating Adam G, who I think very much deserves to be officiating his first ever grand final, the stats that have come out over the past 24 to 48 hours just allow it to go over your head through one ear and out the other. But that is what happened the last time Panthers Broncos played each other, and Adam G and Ashley Klein did work together in that game. But in that game as well, we saw some serious skill from both of those sides. So let's get stuck into the team list. And wow, these two sides are full strength. Going with the Panthers first, Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, and Sunia Turuva are the back three. The back three for Brisbane, Reece Walsh, Arthurs, and Cobbo. I think Cobbo has been a touch disappointing in his first ever final series. And I say first ever final series because the young man had probably have butterflies the size of eagles in his stomach. I know I freaking would. But the battle of Edwards versus Reece Walsh. Reece Walsh's brilliance, off the cuff skill versus Edwards' no nonsense, hard running, bro. That is an amazing fullback matchup. The centre pairing, Isaac Tungo and Stephen Crichton versus Kotoni Staggs and Herbie Farnworth. Stephen Crichton is lining up on Kotoni Staggs, and Crichton and Staggs are my two centres for 2023. And they're going up against each other. And Stephen Crichton plays his 100th game for Penrith this Sunday in the grand final, in his last ever game for the club. You don't think Stephen Crichton's big match efforts are going to be doubled this Sunday? I think Crichton's going to go absolutely insane. And then Isaac Tungo versus Herbie Farnworth. A lot of people have Herbie Farnworth as one of the 2 centres of the year. That's fair enough. He has been exceptional. Isaac Tungo on his day can be exceptional. He got found out last week, but it was his first game in a month or so. So Tungo versus Farnworth, that could be an incredible matchup in itself. The halves pairing, Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary versus Ezra Mann and Adam Reynolds. The forward pack battle now for the Panthers, Moses Leota, James Fisher-Harris and Mitch Kenny versus Tom Flegler, Payne Haas and Billy Walters. Payne Haas versus James Fisher-Harris this weekend. Leota versus Flegler. Or you cross them as well. Fisher-Harris versus Flegler, for example. The earth will crack this weekend, like fair dinkum. Now the hooker battle, Kenny, he's just done his thing at a good level, not the highest level, but he's done a remarkable job for the Penrith Panthers this year. Whereas Billy Walters' second half of the season has been outstanding. There are a lot of people that didn't like him when he was a Tiger. There are a lot of people that haven't liked him for about 18 months or so. And yes, the Broncos have been outside of the top 8 for a couple of years now. I get that. But Billy Walters' second half to the season has been so enjoyable to watch, man. And he's a little bit, I think he's in career best form at the moment. He's a little bit more craftier than Mitch Kenny. And I think he could provide a 40-20 kick, attempt at anyway, from dummy half, whereas Mitch Kenny does not offer that. So I'm really interested to see the sort of gruff no-nonsense of Mitch Kenny versus Billy Walters, who can have flashes of real brilliance, man. The back row, Scott Sorensen, Liam Martin and Isaiah Yeo versus Kurt Capewell, Jordan Ricky and Pat Carrigan. Jordan Ricky taking on Scott Sorensen head-to-head. Liam Martin taking on Kurt Capewell head-to-head. Kurt Capewell coming up against his old side in the grand final. So Kurt Capewell must be absolutely pinching himself. But Pat Carrigan versus Isaiah Yeo, the two arguably best halves in the game in Cleary versus Reynolds, arguably the two best fullbacks in the game, Edwards versus Walsh. The two best locks in the game today going head-to-head in Isaiah Yeo and Pat Carrigan. The interchange, Jack Cogger, Lindsay Smith, Spencer Leniu and Luke Garner versus Tyson Smoothie, Brenton Piakura, Kobe Hetherington and Keenan Palasia. You read that out loud, the Brisbane Broncos interchange, and it's easy to sleep on. But Palasia and Piakura have been monstrous when they have appeared on the paddock this season. They are not to be slept on or trifled with. Spencer Leniu, Lindsay Smith, they've done wonderful things this year themselves. Luke Garner, who was a Tiger last season, he must be pinching himself even more. Like fair dinkum, Garner is in a grand final in 2023. He'd be absolutely over the moon. He wouldn't know where he is or who he is at the moment. And then the number 14s for both of these sides, Jack Cogger and Tyson Smoothie. Tyson Smoothie, wow. He gets to play in the grand final. He's been around a few years now, hasn't he? And he absolutely deserves his spot in the GF. And you think about Corey Pakes and Blake Moser at the very start of the year. People were sort of asking for those two men to be the hookers or second hooker for 2023. But no, it's Tyson Smoothie and Billy Walters that have been doing the job for him this year. And Jack Cogger, he himself, an ex-Tiger as well. I don't know what kind of role he's going to play, if any role, this weekend. But great stuff to see Jack Cogger. He definitely deserves his jersey. And then 18th man, unlucky to miss out, in my opinion, Tyrone Peachey, 18th man, and Corey Oates in jersey number 18. And with the reports that Corey Oates isn't happy with Brisbane at the moment and he might want out, I think that might be the last nail in the coffin as well, just quietly. The Accor Stadium records for both is as follows. This is the 43rd game Panthers have ever played at Accor Stadium. It's 20 wins, 20 losses, and 2 draws. That was rectified last weekend. The Brisbane Broncos, this is their 36th game at Accor Stadium, and they have a 16, 18, and 1 draw record. So they're 2 losses worse at Accor Stadium. They have never met the Panthers and the Broncos at Accor Stadium, and this is Brisbane Broncos' first trip to the venue since May of 2022. And I might be wrong, and this is way off, let's like going way into the recesses of my mind. I don't think Reece Walsh has ever played a game at Accor Stadium. He was with New Zealand Warriors. I can't remember if the Warriors played last year at the venue, but this might be Walsh's first ever match at Accor Stadium, so what a hell of a freaking time to tick that off your list. However, the Brisbane Broncos, they have won 2 in a row. They won their 2 games that they played in 2022 at Sydney Olympic Park, so they haven't lost at Accor Stadium since 2021, so there's a little bit of something there for you Broncos fans. And Adam Reynolds, well, he'd know the freaking venue like the back of his hand, wouldn't he? And then for the Penrith Panthers, they lost the grand final in 2020, and they didn't play there at all in 2021. So from 2022 until right now, they've played there 5 times. They've lost on 1 occasion, and that was to the South Sydney Rabbitohs earlier this season in an absolute classic. So far as some stats go, Brisbane Broncos, they have missed less tackles than the Penrith Panthers this season, and that's really the only stat that really spreads them apart, because they are the best 2 teams of the competition throughout 2022, and they are first and second on the ladder. They are pretty much in the top 3 for every statistic. It's so evenly matched. You'd say one team is better than the other in the other department, and then vice versa, and so on and so forth. Now, the last time that these 2 sides met, yes, it was in that game where Adam G and Ashley Klein had a bit of a fetish for the spotlight that game, but it was the Panthers that won 15-4. Adam Reynolds did not play in that game, and because of that, Adam Reynolds wasn't able to boot the ball deep into Penrith's half, and the Penrith Panthers, they ended up running for more than 700 meters than the Brisbane Broncos that game. So they desperately missed the kicking game of Adam Reynolds that day. He's back this weekend. So Adam Reynolds' kicking game is going to be immense. And speaking of, Smoothie Palasia-Piakura, they didn't play in that contest as well. For the Panthers, the last time they played the Broncos, Spencer Leniu, Jack Cogger, and Isaac Tungo and Luke Garner did not play in that game either. So there is a couple of differences. So you look back to that game and you say, right, Adam Reynolds didn't play in that game, couldn't kick them out of trouble enough. No disrespect to Jock Madden and Ezra Mann, but that just is what it is. It was what it was. And also the completion rate for the Broncos wasn't all that crash hot as well. But the other thing too is Nathan Cleary. His kicking game on Reece Walsh and Selwyn Cobbo is going to be really interesting because, yes, the Broncos have made the second most amount of errors in the competition, but that's because they're so brilliant at attacking. They've thrown the ball around a lot, and they still end up winning possession stats 8 times out of 10, just about. But the Broncos can't afford to have too many of those passes go to ground this weekend. Obviously, it is the Panthers, and they will make you pay this weekend. I think if Nathan Cleary can put those bombs up, Reece Walsh and Selwyn Cobbo have shown that they are susceptible to errors when the kicks go up. Selwyn Cobbo, as I mentioned before, he has been a touch disappointing, not as effective in this final series as I think a lot of people were hoping for. He did have a moment last weekend, but that was off a forward pass. So I think that Nathan Cleary's kicking game, the pressure, the kick pressure, or the catch pressure, I should say, on Reece Walsh and Cobbo is going to be really the intensity is going to be there. It's going to be magnified by 100. So I think there could be an error by one of those two gentlemen this Sunday. I just get the sense that throughout the year they have been susceptible and they just can't seem to get that one error out of their game this year. But the other thing too is that I noticed that in the past couple of games, Nathan Cleary has scored by dummying to the left and going straight up the middle. Whether it's Payne Haas or Tom Flegler, Nathan Cleary has been able to dummy and go straight up the guts of the Brisbane Broncos. So if he steps, dummies, there's a chance that he could score a try. So I think Nathan Cleary might have a game plan. I think, that might have a game plan. I think he's got a really good game plan for the Brisbane Broncos already. It's going to have to evolve. It's going to be really interesting to see how he goes about things this weekend. Adam Reynolds versus Nathan Cleary, the kicking game is going to be amazing. Jerome Luai and Ezra Mam, I should say, is going to be insane. This is one of the all-time potential grand finals in prospect. It's one of the best days, potentially, ever in grand final history. So who am I going to tip? Panthers or Broncos? The Brisbane Broncos have proven over 4 years, even in their darkest time, they've still been the bane of existence for the Penrith Panthers. They've just given them a trickier time than usual. The Broncos can win. They're a massive chance. I can't go past the Penrith Panthers, though. Will they win 13 plus? No. Is there a potential that they could win by 10 points or so? Like a 26-16 scoreline? I think that's what we could be looking at this Sunday. I'm going to go like a 26-16 scoreline. I think Nathan Cleary or Stephen Crichton is going to get the Clive Churchill medal, and I do think, however, Selwyn Cobbo, for as somewhat quiet as he's been this year, I think Cobbo could get a try by jumping over the top of Sunia Taruva. I think that is an area where the Broncos can score points, is by putting in a crossfield kick for Cobbo and having him leap over the top of one Sunia Taruva, who in my opinion is the Rookie of the Year. So I'm going to go Cobbo as an anytime try scorer. I'm going to go... I'm going to go Nathan Cleary as the Clive Churchill medalist, if not Stephen Crichton as a Smoky. And I'm going to choose the Penrith Panthers to do the three-peat and become the NRL premiers for 2023. Alrighty, that is it. That's the NRL season done for 2023 on the Wobble and Jaw Sports channel. There are internationals to look forward to, so keep it tuned on the Wobble and Jaw Sports channel, please. But that's it for the NRL season. So thank you to everyone who has subscribed or maintained the continuous support. It truly, truly does mean a hell of a lot. And a big thank you to the NRL players and officials, particularly the players. This season has been one of, if not the most enjoyable that I can remember. And it's because of your efforts. So to the NRL players and the NRLW players as well, thank you. Thank you for such an enjoyable year, and go enjoy your off seasons big time if you aren't already. And I'll see you guys in the next episode, which will be talking about the Pacific Championships kicking off in a couple of weeks' time. So rugby league hasn't finished for 2023, but the NRL season will conclude by Sunday. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy grand final day. It's going to be such an amazing day. It's going to be so good. Take care. Adios.